Perhaps you were watching along live with myself and several hundred other people when Google announced the Pixel Fold officially. The gentleman on the stage, who I don't actually remember who it was on stage because my memory has been wiped of everything other than when he pointed up to the screen and said $17.99. You could hear this sort of sound move across the crowd. It wasn't cheers, wasn't quite groans, but it was sort of like, oh, like a little, unhappy noises, coming from the crowd. That's a lot of money. But, look, we're kind of getting used to it because this thing was the very same price, the Z Fold 4. Price is the thing. In fact, I've run polls about this sort of thing a couple of times. And time again, that price is cited by people as being the biggest thing that turned them off of something like, as you can see here, the Pixel Fold. $1,800 is so much money to spend on a phone. It disqualifies it from being a phone that a lot of people are going to have any desire to purchase, or maybe not even desire, but just being fiscally responsible. It disqualifies them from purchasing this device. Now that leads me to this tweet here. What we're looking at here is a tweet from Revegnus, who I've cited on this channel a couple of times. Not a whole lot going on in their description, but they're being cited across the internet. They are a tipster that has been somewhat reliable in the past with Samsung products, and they are stating that the current plan, they say the initial plan may be subject to change in the future, but nonetheless, the initial plan is that the Z Flip 5 will stay at the same price as its predecessor, but the Z Fold 5 might see a slight reduction in price compared to its predecessor. So what is a slight reduction? Okay, $17.99. We're talking $16.99. That will be slight. $15.99 I would call fairly substantial. $14.99 seems like a crazy amount. So I would say maybe $100, maybe $50 would be a little bit weird, but maybe from $17.99 to $16.99. And I got to thinking about this. Is this something that's going to make a substantial difference? Is this something that people are going to see $100 difference and they're going to go, well, that's the one I'm going to buy now? When I first saw this tweet, I quoted it and I said, how much cheaper does the Z Fold 5 need to be to put Pixel Fold in a bad spot? In my mind, I'm thinking there's two foldables coming to America that we have good information on. OnePlus Fold is still coming down the pipe as well. But for right now, we're just talking about the two that have been announced that we know are coming. And I'm imagining people are trying to decide Z Fold, Pixel Fold, which one am I going to buy? And I'm imagining that the Z Fold has a lot of advantages already. It is the fifth, kind of even the sixth iteration on this design. The software is quite mature, whereas the Pixel Fold, this is the first foldable by Google. There's, I could break this down, and I've done it in other videos, but I feel like the Z Fold for the masses might be the simpler choice just because of how established it is. You've got the pin, you've got the processor, on and on and on. And I'm thinking to myself, if Samsung drops that price by just a little bit, that might be tipping the scale too much for the Google Pixel Fold to be able to really compete with them directly. However, I must give credit where credit is due here. Daniel says it would have to be so much cheaper that it's not economically viable for Samsung to actually produce. And I said, well, there is some truth to that. I do have comments from people who said they're close. They're trying to decide between the two, and imagining $100 one way or the other might sway them. Daniel goes on to say he feels like that's the minority. And my intuition was telling me that this was wrong. And I was like, no, there's got to be quite a few people thinking this way. So I made a poll. And in this poll, I asked this question. If you've decided to buy either the Z Fold 5 or the Pixel Fold this year, how much of a price discrepancy would make you change your mind and buy the other phone instead? And I put on there $100, $200, $300, and I'm locked in. Price would not change my mind. And look at these results. With 664 votes, this is not the biggest sample size in the world, but this is a channel built on foldables and weird phones. There's a lot of foldable fans on this channel. That's a decent amount. The vast majority of people say it would take $300 is a big price drop. We're not getting that. That's number two. Number one is I'm locked in. I don't care about the price. I have already picked my phone, and $100, $200, heck, even $300 isn't going to change my mind. These results shocked me. Now, of course, there is some gray area to this poll and to the responses. We don't know if people are on Pixel Fold and responding as if they're switching to the Z Fold in their mind, or vice versa. We don't know which way they're going. There's no real good way to do this other than to keep doing subsequent polls to try and kind of suss this out. And that's not something that I have taken the time to do. I think that what this does illustrate to us, though, is that by and large, people who are willing to spend $1,800 on a phone aren't really too bothered by $100 here or there. And I'm highly skeptical that $100 here or there is enough to sway people from Z Fold to Pixel Fold or vice versa. And I'm also highly skeptical that it's enough to take someone who didn't want to buy the phone and convince them to buy it. People that are like, $1,800, that's too much. But $1,699, $1,700, that I can afford. Like, that's just nonsense at that point. And it's funny because, again, in my mind, my snap judgment, my initial thought, maybe because I'm thinking of normal phones, and that's just where I'm coming from, because these, phones of this price are still kind of a new thing. So with a normal phone, $100, $150 cheaper, that's a big deal, and that can actually differentiate two competing phones. But at this price point, I don't think that it really matters all that much. Now, what you can see here, though, is that $300 mark really does start to sway people. And I think that that's where the OnePlus Fold is going to be really interesting, because I believe in my heart of hearts, with no hard evidence towards this other than just OnePlus's history, I believe that they're going to try and undercut Samsung and Google, and I believe that they have enough market awareness and enough intelligence to know what this poll is saying already, that $100, $200 is not going to do enough. People have picked their brand already. They know which one they want. And if they're going to get Samsung people or Google people to become OnePlus people, they're going to have to do $300 cheaper or more to sway people into their camp. $14.99 would be a really good place for the OnePlus Fold to come in and I think really be quite disruptive in this growing market segment. And honestly, I think there's a chance that that's what they do. If they don't, if they are $15.99, $16.99, or matching that $17.99, I don't know how much of a future they're necessarily going to have competing with these other two behemoths. It's going to be fascinating to watch all of this stuff take place as we get closer and closer to fall. Guys, let me know what you think about all this in the comments down below. Subscribe before you go so you don't miss out on more content like this. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.